Good morning. Welcome to Soul Lab Come Together. This is Kelly Nazat. I am live in New Orleans right now, and we are entering into the 11th week, is it, I think? 11th of 13-week journey into the elements of life and elements of the alchemy of transformation and who we are, what we're becoming, and all that good stuff. So, week 11, it's the middle of the air realm, and it's an interesting place to be, symbolically speaking. The air realm is where everything kind of rises up and comes up and, surfaces and becomes part of our everyday experience, right? So, first part of air is how we relate to each other. It's also about mindfulness, about how we think about our lives. The air realm historically has been seen as, the air being mind, being thoughts, being sublimatio, which means sublimating ideas and dreams and visions and impulses and bringing it to a higher level, into the air, into the world, into action, walking your talk and all that good stuff. So, good morning. So, this is where we're at. It is midweek already, and we're in the first phase of air, the second phase of air, and we're moving from how we deal with each other on an interpersonal level, the patterns in which you relate to another person on a one-on-one level. There's all sorts of patterns emerge that we discover about ourselves, and some of them are transfer from one person to the other. Other patterns seem to evolve in different types of people or in a certain relationship dynamic, right? Well, the middle of air, is more about how we relate to our community, to a collective group. So it extends beyond just how we deal with each other on a one-on-one level. And that's an interesting thing. Some of us are really much better at dealing with on a one-on-one level, and we're not as comfortable in group settings, let's say. We have our challenges in those areas, and other people tend to really shine in the area of social engagement and being parts of groups and stuff like that. Wherever you fit in that, you might notice that there are certain patterns in the way that you engage these group settings, whether it's formal or informal groups, whether it's going to a concert or like a club that you're part of, or a family dynamic, which is another wonderful grouping. We have these patterns in ways that we tend to relate to them. And from an archetypal perspective, they would say, well, there are these archetypal parts of your nature that seems to be sort of contextually cued when you're in these certain environments. And so this week is about looking at how you are in relationship to society, how you're in relationship to any social groups you're part of. If you're part of social groups, if you're feeling, withdrawing or really kind of desiring to be more a part of the world around you. And from an astrological sense, from what I've been reading and what I gather, it's sort of this idea, one of the interesting dynamics at this time is really looking at how these merging or emerging collective concepts are coming forward. These new tribes, these new gatherings, these new ways of being in relationship to the world and to society around us are emerging, while we're still challenged by the old order, the old ways, the old status quo, the old kind of embedded social networks and social structures. So while we're engaging and learning and really dynamically becoming a part of this emerging way of engaging each other on a collective level, we're also having to deal with and grow out of and grow through these old ways of being. So one of the things that I definitely hear a lot in sessions is that there's a sense of disconnect from even those in their direct environment, that they're tending to move away from certain people that they've been around a long time. And they feel like in some ways that they're kind of isolating themselves away from that. But in another sense, they feel even more connected in this virtual sense to people that they've never met before in person, that they connect to on Facebook or other social media forums. And there's a lot of challenges, assuming that that there's challenges in these areas. What you're finding is that there's always an awkwardness to these emerging collectives. How do you hold its space for it? How do you find yourself in relationship to it? And what is the ideal way of relating to each other? Is there gold in this format of virtual community? It certainly seems so. Are there challenges? Absolutely. Can we change it? It will change for sure. However, the idea that we're going to go back to something romantic that once was tends to hold us back or cause problems, whereas I think the idea might be more if we can accept what's coming, warts and all, and engage it and be conscious with it, we can be part of the bringing this new collective into purpose, into service in a way that actually is good for us. So there's a lot of good to be had here. There's a lot of advantages to being part of an emerging social structure, which I think there always is. New social structure is always emerging, hopefully. But certainly it seems to be changing quicker and quicker now, right? And so how do we keep up with these constantly shifting collective structures? The air realm, the middle air, is all about that. What is it about being mindful? What is it about entering into the unknowns? How do you hold the mystery of this unfolding social shifting structure without losing it, without spiraling out? How do you hold your center in this space? And how do you find your center in a collective field? How do you not lose yourself to groupthink or the group mind, the hive mind? And on another level, it's sort of like the hive mind. There's certainly the shadow side to it, because if the hive mind is like it has a mad queen, it's going to create mad bees. It's the algorithm set by the central thing. So if the hive that you're engaging is destructive, well, nothing you really do in that is going to change that, except maybe to find a better hive or a kinder queen. I don't like that kind of hierarchical concept, but nature certainly says that there is something valuable in that if there is some central ethos or some central a way of holding the field that brings us all together in a good way. So maybe in this time it's about finding a kinder, gentler, more simpatico culture to be a part of, and give your energies over to that. Maybe this is the challenge, is we have all of these options out there. Postmodernism opened the field for us to select whatever we want. But maybe now we're starting to see that there's some intelligence to all this collective dismemberment and disarray and chaos, that we're starting to come into some vision that what resonates with us out there is something that when we offer our consciousness to it, it actually helps amplify something that we think is really good, and that could be the tipping point we're all looking for. So Air 2, mindfulness, collective consciousness, collective intelligence, being a part of something bigger, something emerging, and also contending with what came before us. And the knowns that we know that we're moving through. So the only thing I would offer, I'd go back to the notion of the Icarus mythology, right? The Icarus storyline. And in the fire realm, we saw Icarus taking flight, and he's having a great time. He's escaped the labyrinth that his dad got him thrown into, And he's escaped that, and he's flying high, and because his dad fashioned wax wings, or feathers with wax, and created something really incredible. In the air realm, it precedes that fiery kind of arching, downward, eventually downward spiral. The air realm is about how do we get ourselves out of these collective traps that our cleverness got us into, the cleverness of our forefathers got us into. The story goes that Icarus's father, Daedalus, created all these wonderful things, and the king loved him, the queen loved him, but his cleverness got him in a lot of trouble, where eventually the king threw him into the labyrinth that he created for the king to imprison all of the king's enemies. So Daedalus, the clever inventor of technology, of society, all this wonderful stuff, that the mind of our cleverness actually can trap us. It didn't only trap Daedalus, but it trapped the Minotaur that he helped create, and his son, who was his future, the continuation of his cleverness. They all got trapped inside of this technological maze, this technological trap. And as the story goes, it was the same cleverness that got him into the trap that got him out, because he observed, he looked around, he saw what was there. He saw birds flying out and escaping, and they would go wherever they want. But he also saw that there were bees in there, right? And these bees were coming together, and there was some centralized intelligence, some collective intelligence that drew them together, and that was drawing each individual bee to create something for the collective whole that was actually really good for everyone. And so that gets into this morphogenetic field, that gets into this, you put your iPhone here in this space and there's no wires, but there's information in this field. So we're starting to wake up and say, this isn't just air, it isn't just blank space, that we're swimming in the akashic field, or the field, or whatever you want to call it, this quantum field of information, and we're all tapped into it. And a lot of the work is about remembering that and allowing for that wisdom to guide us, bring us together in this collective way, and to recognize the genius of these synchronistic coming together, that we come together in ways that we can't causally account for. We can't simply say, oh, I understand how it all happened. To say that I understand what's going to happen next month, or who's going to come into my life, who's going to be a part of Soul Lab, who's going to be doing this, is fantasy. I don't know. But I can hold space for the field and invite in that collective coming together, and hold a space where it is attractive to bring people together to have this collective wisdom where we come to something higher. So the hive mind, in that sense, Daedalus saw this, Icarus's father saw this, and he said, well, the feathers I can't do a whole lot with, although I see the birds use them for wings and flight, but I can't really do anything. But it's the wax that holds it all together. The wax is that sort of community bond that we have that brings us together. And I think that's an important concept. What is it that the wax that brings us together? What is it in this collective field that is just a part of nature, the wisdom of nature, that is bringing us together? And even though we don't understand what's emerging, even though the bees, I'm certain, don't know why they're creating these hexagonal things, and they may have a sense of it, but they just do what they do, and it turns out beautifully. What is it that can guide us in the field that is of an intelligent, benevolent, and creative, emerging state that can help us move and support what needs to come through to replace what is dying and decaying and destroying our planet? What can we engage in that an intelligence in the field that will support this? I think that's a really good thing to be mindful of, and also it's a great meditation to tap into and say, I'm tuning into life. I'm tuning into the collective force for good. I'm tuning into and I'm inviting in to guide and support me, Mother Earth flowing through me like the tree of life and the heavens bathing over me. I'm tuning into the highest value in all of that, and I'm asking that wisdom to enlighten, to guide, to support, to release me, to tune in, to turn on, to drop out of the old ways so that I can tune in and turn on this emerging world that's coming through. This is a meditation that you see in all major mystical traditions, esoteric practices, shamanic, Taoists. They all are saying tune into that station that is a frequency of life. There's a frequency of an emerging wholeness. And allow that to inform and guide you. Drop out of the crash state that we all go into and come back into resonance. Come back into your wholeness. Tap into the field like in the apple core, the torus of connection with heaven and earth. And in the heart, find that center. Find it all coming into harmony, into balance. Find yourself releasing out of the discord and the crashing, and just like that, come back into harmony. And notice how that then informs and guides not just you, but all your relations, all your connections. Things just drop into this ease, this effortlessness. It drops out to the frenetic noise of chaos and confusion of the fight or flight system, right? Drop back into this connection with heaven and earth, like the wireless connection, and notice that you feel this recalibration, this rebooting, this remembering, this kind of redemption in a certain thing, coming back to what's always been there, and releasing what is ready to let go. And you find this calm abiding, this calm guidance system that is in the field. And then as you tap into that and you become a center for that, you become a magnetic attractor for all of that in the world around you. And like attracts like. And so in that way, the more we come into harmony, the more we come into our center, the more we attract others that are doing the same. And the more that we come together, the more that we're two or more gathered sort of thing, right? The more support we have, the more we can do with the genius of what's gathering us together, the emerging mystery unfolding, all of that good stuff. So this is air too. This is the middle of air in astrology. They see it as the place of Aquarius, a place of new tribes, old ways, sort of Saturnian, and Uranus. Uranus is saying new life, let's bring in transformational opportunities, new tribe, and Saturn saying, well, let's you still have to contend with the old ways and making sure you're in harmony with that. So there's this really interesting dynamic going on. What are you, where's your allegiance, where's your attention, where's your focus? Focus on outcomes and solutions, focus on what's emerging, tune into the collective of what is good and harmonious and in balance within yourself and in the world, and become an aspect of that collective field that is emerging and a conduit for that. And so as we each own our part in that, we, like cells in the body coming back into resonance, we then are in support of each other, and that spreads, and there's a tipping point within that field. So that's the nature of Air 2. I hope you guys have a great week. It's midweek. I'm here in New Orleans till Sunday morning, and I fly back to Connecticut. And, there's so many things that have been going on with in our collective field. It just doesn't stop. And, we have all of these disastrous things that are happening in the collective field, not just here, but around the world. And all the more reason to rally and to tune into the part of the collective field that is life-giving, that is harmonious, that is in balance and harmony, in resonance, so that we can support this emerging. And it's a great opportunity to practice the way that you react to the world. You can't change what's happening, but you can change the way you react, respond to it. And the best way to do that is simply to find yourself embodied and connected with wholeness, connected with resonance, connected with your center of gravity, balance, and whole in yourself. and then tune into that, turn on that, and drop out of the old ways, drop out of the noise, drop out of the chaos and the fear and all the rest of that stuff, and step out of it into something more dynamic, more progressive, more alive, and be an agent of that change. So that said, I hope you have a fantastic week, our remaining week. We'll be entering our final week, which is Air 3. Air 3 gets into communicating within systems, collective fields, your formal connections and that sort of thing, and how do we come to this high state of communication as a formal way of creating reality, and how do we deal with the old sort of ivory tower thinking that gets us disconnected. There's that duality within codified communication, thinking in terms of formal ideas, beliefs, laws, regulations, and all this sort of stuff. How do we get to this heightened state of communication without losing the spontaneity and the mystery in it? So that is the air realm. We're in the middle of it now. We'll be posting many different memes and ideas around that. And in the meantime, I hope I hear from you guys, and I hope you're all doing well. And I hope you're finding peace and harmony and balance by your connections with each other, by really engaging the collective that is supporting you, that you're a part of manifesting, that you're creating for yourself. So I love you guys. I hope you have a great week, and we'll talk very soon, I hope. Bye-bye.